dive right in. So this is welcome everybody, and thanks for coming. So today, what we're going to be talking about is top 5 website analytics every business owner should something, I guess, should know about and what to do with them. My name is Paul Taubman. My company is called Digital Maestro. Contact information's on the screen if you care to jot it down. It's also in the chat. So before we get started, why should you listen to me? Well, built lots of websites, been in the industry basically since the websites have started. We do a lot of securing thousands of sites around in the US and around the world. I put in here, we do track over 100 sites a month for clients. So over the course of things, that's translates to hundreds of them. I've been a contributor, I've been published in many books, Connie Reagan Green's book, Adrian Dupree, Debbie O'Grady, Brad Reed. So I've got all of these. Plus just was published in another one. So I can say I'm an Amazon bestseller. But if you don't know these people, it means nothing. So I'm just going to move on. I have been featured on Great Day Washington, the news program, morning news show, #1 in DC. So it's me on the right, in case you can't figure that out, and a woman that I work with, Michelle Muir. So, all right, so let's actually, because we're running out of time already, we're going to talk about website analytics. And that's a phrase that many people can go, ooh, I don't want to hear about that. So I'm going to call this maybe like website analytics 101. So if you're an expert, great, you'll probably get something out of this. If you have no idea what these two words together even mean, you'll still get something out of it. And I'm going to answer all kinds of questions. So as we go along, feel free to just interrupt me, put a question in the chat. I'll try to look at those, and we'll make it as interactive as possible. This is a 4-hour presentation, just like the last time I said, so I'm going to be speaking quickly and stop me, right? That's just it. Plus, you're going to say I'm going to get to this. This was a very difficult presentation for me to put together, by the way, and I'll get into that. For those of you who know me, obviously my company's Digital Maestro. We're musically oriented. I played trumpet all through high school and college, and one of the famous pieces was by a composer called Joseph Haydn. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he'd written the trumpet concerto. Right, it's a famous that every trumpet player always kind of goes through, puts it in their repertoire, and performs it at some point. It's a solo with an orchestra. So today's presentation will be in 3 movements in respect to Mr. Haydn. And the 3 movements are the Allegro, Andante, and Allegro. Okay, so if you don't know Italian, that's okay. We'll speak English. All right, so the first part of it, or the Allegro, is why website analytics matter. Like, why should you be paying attention to all of this stuff? Like, how can it help you? If it can't help you, it's not worth it. Okay? Then we will move on to the top 5 website analytics to track, kind of what's in the title. And it's kind of like a maybe. You'll see what I mean by this maybe, but don't worry, we'll talk about them. This is not bait and switch. And I'm not going to be selling anything either, by the way. Okay. Then the last part, or the third movement, is we're just going to kind of tie it all together, put it together, and talk about next steps of what you can do with it. Along the way, we're going to it'll be a mixed kind of discussion and conversation, explaining things, and then diving into a live setting, actually seeing some of these things. So the first thing we're going to talk about, why do website analytics matter? What should you know about this? So starting off with #1, and I've got about 3 reasons to talk about. Knowing your numbers, knowing your website and your analytics can really make a difference on your business, the growth of it, as well as decision making. Analytics provide, it's really a tool, it's a powerful tool for understanding how your business is performing, and identify areas that you can grow it. It can also identify areas that aren't growing, and then you get to decide, do I want to grow it? Do I want to kind of cut it out and let it go? So when you're collecting and analyzing your data, you can make informed decisions. You have the information based on real insights, rather than just going, you know what, I kind of think people are looking at that page, or I think that is selling a lot. knowing your numbers, knowing the data. There's a lot of people say they don't want to make any decisions without the data. So this is kind of the opposite of your gut feeling. Gut feelings are definitely good and should never be ignored, but hopefully your gut feeling and the numbers are in sync, and then you know that you got a good decision-making tool for you. Okay. Analytics provide insights. Actually, I should say it this way. Analytics provide insight into customer behavior, website performance, and marketing efforts. Sounds so much professional that way. Right? Really, with analytics, you can gain kind of a window into what the customers are doing, their actions, their preferences, which is going to be invaluable for shaping what you're offering to them, along with your marketing strategies. Analytics can show how visitors come to your website, how they interact with it, what pages they view, how long they stay, where do they leave from. And with this information, with this data, it usually offers some sort of clues into what engages your customers or clients, maybe what frustrates and ticks them off, and possible improvements that can enhance their experience. So also analytics can help assess your effectiveness of your marketing efforts, by showing you what campaigns drive your traffic, what gets people to your website, what's generating your leads and your sales, and what's causing the money to come in. Okay. And then the third thing I'm going to just mention on this is that as I go through this, keep in mind that we're going to be talking about data, but data is really more than just the numbers that we're looking at. It's going to be the important pieces of the conversions and your return on investment, right? Because a lot of times people just think, oh, data, that's a bunch of numbers, or they think about piles of papers or spreadsheets on the screen. But in reality, all this data, all these numbers really tell a story about what's working and what needs improvement in your business. When these are analyzed effectively, the data is going to show you some, actionable insights and things that you can do to increase the conversions and performance on your website. So I hope you realize at least now why you should at least take a look at some of these things. Okay. Any questions so far? As silence falls across the room. Okay, great. So let's talk about the 5 website analytics to track. And these are otherwise known as metrics or numbers or things like that. And this is where I came into difficulty. So I started to kind of list down what numbers, like I thought, what should I talk about? I got to limit it to 5. So I just started brainstorming, and this is the actual list that I initially started out with. I thought, you know what? It's important, mobile versus desktop, like knowing where your clients are coming from there. Or how about top performing content? Or if you're using an e-commerce site, A/B testing numbers, cart abandonment rates, return refund rates, their customer turnover rates, lifetime value of a customer, seasonality. And looking at the e-commerce numbers here, I thought, you know what? While these are important numbers, these are obtainable from your website, perhaps. They're also probably available in some other areas. And you may not actually think that these are website analytics, right? These are more business. So this is, again, where things kind of merge together like this. And I'm like, should I talk about it? Shouldn't I talk about it? So I'm at least going to mention it. Some of you have lists that people opt in. So knowing what your weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly opt-in rate and numbers are, right? If you get a lot more opt-ins, there's been plenty of research that says the more people on your list, the more sales you're making. It's just a numbers game. Okay. When it comes to your website, how fast does it load? What's the speed? What are what's known as load times? Do you have a lot of images on your site that are slowing things down, right? For every millisecond, this I don't know how this gets tracked, but you can look it up. For every millisecond that Amazon loads a page slower, they're losing $1,000. They can afford to lose it. Oops, did I say that out loud? All right, if you're doing social media, your social media followers, are they increasing? Are your likes increasing? Are your reactions increasing? Again, all good numbers to know about. How about the locations or the countries or the sources where people are coming from? Knowing that can affect what your decisions are in business. Your conversions. Conversions, by the way, can mean 27 different things. So, for example, here, open rates. If you're sending out emails, how many people are opening them? If you're sending out emails, how many people are opening them? How many people are clicking on it? How many people are opening it, clicking it, going to the website, reading it, clicking the buy, and then buying, right? All of these are considered, each step along the way is a conversion. So, or it could just be straight from if you're advertising and you're doing, let's say, a Google ad or a Facebook ad or some of the social media things, and somebody clicks on it and they go to your website and they buy it, or they just land there. How many people are visiting the website to that page, your sales page, where they can buy something, and are they buying it, right? So that's another kind of conversion. Click through, I mentioned if they're sending an email. Split testing, this goes kind of back to the e-commerce A/B testing. A lot of times people can have the same page, let's say a sales page for a product that you're selling, and make one little change. Maybe it's the headline wording. Maybe it's just the color. The entire page is the same, but the main headline is a different color. Marketers track those kind of things. So that's called split testing, and knowing what those different numbers are. Those are important things to check. Unique visitors to the website. Page per session view. So when somebody comes to your site, how many pages? Bounce rate, they come and they go. Exit pages, where are they leaving from? Click through. Exit pages, I guess it was so important I listed it twice. I don't know what I was thinking. But you can see here lots and lots of different metrics and things to track. So just by a show of hands, how many of you have heard some of these? Has anybody never heard any of these? Is anybody just ready to say, thanks, John, I'm leaving. This guy's nuts. Too much information.
Well, the nuts part for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for sticking around. So with that said, before I move on, just I want to make this interactive because I am not going to cover all of these because people have to work today. Is there anything that anybody would like to know a little bit more about before I move on? And if I've already decided this is one I'm going to talk about, I'll tell you, we'll get to it in a moment.
And feel free to put questions in the chat box as well as you go along. I'll alert Paul if there's anything in there.
Okay, I'm just
Paul, will you be talking about how to actually increase conversions and click-through rates, or just how to track those?
so that was like part two of my frustration is I want to show you how to right. I can show you how to implement. I can show you where to go and look. I can show you how to. There's not enough time to do everything, unfortunately. So, maybe next time if I'm invited back, we can talk about specific ones and optimizing each one of these or certain ones. So,
Okay.
I'll touch base on some of those. So, for example, mobile versus that. Let me go one that people probably don't really think about. Exit pages, right? Exit pages. By knowing where people are in the process as they're going through your website, sometimes knowing what page that they actually leave from can be helpful because that can mean that it's, off topic, it's off brand. The trail that they use to get to that page, they may have decided, boom, it's done, right? You're dried up at that point. They've seen everything that they need to know. The other part is all of this, some people may say there's a science to it. It's almost like there's an art to it because like the exit pages, when they're done, right above it, there's something there called the bounce rate. Anybody ever hear a bounce rate who is not technical? Okay, so the bounce rate means that somebody comes to your website. Maybe they found you through Google or Bing or Yahoo or wherever it was, but they saw something, they clicked the link, they went to your page, to your website, they looked at that page, and then they left. Okay, so your website visitor saw one page during their session. And that's another word that's on here someplace is the session count. If somebody comes to your site, gets the information and leaves, is that a good thing?
It depends.
Imagine, I'm sorry?
It depends.
you can be really effective. Somebody wanted information, they came to your site, they saw that page, they got exactly what they need. They say thank you very much to themselves, and then they leave. So in that case, how awesome is that? That's great. You did your purpose for that page. Well, in that case, that's really good. In the eyes of Google, Bing, and Yahoo, and the other search engines, they may look at that and go, they came to your website based on the link and then they left. Maybe it wasn't relevant. So, although we like to think that these big search engines are all knowing, they still don't know all. They don't know if somebody left because they were satisfied. They don't know if they left because they thought this is complete rubbish. Okay. So, that's where kind of the art comes into play. Okay. Questions? All right, I'm going to move on and then talk about some of these other ones. Whoop, sorry about that. All right, so let's talk about, I picked 5. These are not necessarily the most important. They are definitely important. And you can ask anybody their top 5 analytics to track. And if you ask 10 people, you'll get 11 different answers. Okay. So first one I'm going to talk about are your traffic sources. The next one's going to be the top performing content or products. Session durations, pages per sessions. We talked about that a little bit. Conversion rate, I glossed over that. And then last, mobile versus desktop traffic. Okay, so these are 5. We'll kind of go into a little bit more detail given the time that we have. All right, so traffic sources, what is it? As I mentioned, I think I mentioned briefly, that's really just where people are coming from to visit your site. And it comes from either an email that you sent them with a link, or they found you in social media, or maybe it was a search engines, wherever it came. It could have been advertising. They're coming from somewhere, and it's good to know where. Okay. So, well, why does it matter? Well, knowing which methods or channels are driving the most traffic to your website can help you figure out where you want to allocate resources effectively, right? And that's an interesting term that we like to use, allocate resources effectively. What that means is, if you see that social media is sending a lot of people, you might want to spend more time on social media. If you're doing paid ads, again, Google or Yahoo or Facebook ads, and there's all kinds of different ads and things within those two, display ads, text ads, you can take a look and see where your efforts are going in there in order to say, do I want to do this more or less? So kind of here's what you can do with this. Focus on figuring out what your top areas are for delivering your traffic, even which countries, and then decide, do you want to improve things that are really working? Right? So concentrate on your strengths. Do you want to concentrate on your weaknesses where there are low performers, especially if you think that's a market or a demographic or a type of client that you can market to? Maybe you want to increase your efforts on them and just figure out what's the most successful way to get those people and what you want to do with it. Make sense? Questions? Okay. Top performing content or product. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to run out of time, so I apologize. But let me show you something like this. I'm going to actually bring up a client's website and show you this is a technique for tracking a whole bunch of the metrics that we talked about. Okay, and this is using something called Google Analytics, brought to you by Google, your friendly big brother. Google will provide you for free code that you can use, right? It could be a script, it could be a different thing. And again, I'm not going to really jump into adding everything, but you can see that what Google will do is, well, I won't get into the setting up of things, but you can set it up. You put a small piece of code on the pages or every page that you want to track on your website, and it will start to track information for you of all kinds of stuff. So in this example here, we can see that they've had over 6,000 active users in the last 90 days. Of those 6.6 thousand-ish, 5.9 are actually new users who haven't been there before. And take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? If somebody goes in a private window or an incognito window, and then they open up the same page in a regular window, that's going to count as two different people, right? So there's some things you just have to be careful of. We can split this information down and say, well, that's the last quarter. How do we do last week? Well, last week, 573 people came, and it looks like they average almost, we can see this is daily, about 50 to 60 people, but holy smokes, on the 10th, when was that? That was just a few days ago. There was a spike here. Now it's a spike of maybe about 100 people, but it's still a big increase. You can see if we show that, it says it's an average of about 126%. So this is a good thing to say. What happened? Did they do something? Did they send out an email that says, hey, go check out this on the website? Did they do something more with social media? We can look at for the last 30 days. And we can see that, oh, in fact, things are down considerably. Okay. So knowing this, and actually look at this. We can see that right now on their website, there are actually 3 people that are looking at the website, 1 from Mexico and 2 from the US. And it's still only 8:45 in the morning. Right? So this is real time in the last 20 minutes or so. If we scroll down, there's a lot of information that's available here showing that these are the most viewed page titles or the pages on the website that people went through in that time frame. So again, each one of these has a little time frame that we can kind of tweak and take a look at. So if we looked at the last 90 days, this page here, I know, unlock your full potential with breathwork. That's actually their homepage. And typically your homepage will be the most viewed. But then we can take a look at this and go, wow, there's a lot of people. The next most popular page in the last 90 days, always think about your time frame, especially if you're a seasonal business, their events page. So they do a lot of events and there's a lot of people checking those out. Next is Meet Dan, which is kind of like the about page. Okay. There's a training, they have a practitioner program, and all of these we can see within the last 90 days which ones are the most popular. And we can also see that in the past 90 days, excuse me, overall, things are on the rise. So again, this is a good indication. Well, what do we do? What caused the increase in traffic? Was it a fluke? Did we do more speaking? Was there social involved? Were there ads involved? Were there just more email campaigns? So this is where you can get this information. Next, right next to it, we can see a breakdown of the location. I mentioned that, where people are coming from. The most people, in this case, last 30 days came from the US, then Canada. Right? 15% came from the US. Almost 10% came from Canada. I'm looking over here because this is the screen that's got all what you're saying, right? And we can see these. Now we can actually break this out, click on view countries, and really break this down into the top countries that he's got, right? So up here, I can see if you can see where the cursor is, he's actually got in the past, what are we looking at, 90 days? 124 countries, a representative, at least from each of those countries, visited his website. So you can see this is why people think of Google as Big Brother. When you put this information, these little tracking information code things for free on your website, as a business owner, it can provide you with a lot of information. But of course, nothing is free. Google has this information as well, so that they do what they want with it also. If you have Google Analytics installed on your site, this is something that you can look at. If you don't have it, you can install it. You can create an account, just search for Google Analytics, and there's tutorials on YouTube, etc., that you can use to put this on your website, and it will start from that point on. Right? This has been on there for quite a bit of time, so we can actually go, actually, let's go back to the home Pick something nice and easy. If we look again at here, we can see a full year's worth of data. You can see that things actually started in July. They actually changed some things and started tracking data that way. Okay. Now, if you don't, okay, this is where number two difficulty or another difficulty comes up. Every website host probably, I will say, does some sort of tracking of information as well. Okay. So this particular site on the hosting account uses something called a cPanel, which is one of the very popular methods of working with hosting and doing all kinds of stuff. So, there's email, they have all their files, there's databases, all this kind of good stuff. And if your hosting company has a cPanel, great. You can watch the replay and follow along or take good notes. If they don't, they still have something very similar to this. You'll just have to dig around. Right? So that's why I figured Google Analytics is universal. Everybody can have it. But if you don't have it, you're not using it. Next step is to look at your cPanel. And if we scroll down, you can see, oh, here's the word. Even the hosting companies use metrics. So if we come into the metrics section, and if you don't see it, it may be kind of collapsed. So I'm going to open it up. And there's something here called AW Stats. AW Stats. If we click on that, it's going to bring up a screen and show us two things. Generally, it will show us two things. It might show more. It will show us the website domain name, and then it shows it to us again, but this one says SSL. So this is going to be all of the traffic and activity based on using the secure location of the website using HTTPS. Okay. Hopefully your websites are using that. It's important. It's good for security. It's also good for SEO and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm just going to jump in and take a look at the SSL, the secure version. Actually, I'll show you the first one. The numbers are a lot less and very disheartening, right? So unique visitors, can you see this? Is this big enough? Let me zoom in a little bit more. You can see the unique visitors, not much, 2, 3, 4, right? That's not a lot because most people aren't accessing the site via HTTP. They're going using HTTPS. So if I look at the SSL, which is the HTTPS, we look at this. Actually, let's take a look at so the numbers are bigger. That's a good thing. But we need to take a look at what we're looking at this point. So these are daily visitors, number of visits. This looks odd for a bit, but we can see if we scroll down. We can see the days of the month that people are visiting. We can see the days of the week and how traffic is coming. We can see the times of the day that they're looking at, the number of pages, the number of hits, right? We can come down and we can look at, now here we'll see a lot of stuff. Google is constantly searching websites. So is Bing, so is Apple. So these are bots that look at your website and are tracking things. Okay. We can take a look at the type of files that they're accessing here. So in this case, PHP and HTML are actual files, web pages that are used to create a website. Okay. We can see downloads and number of things that people have updated that looked at, right? When they've downloaded those. Again, now we have top pages that they use, and these are going to be any page at all, even behind the scenes pages, even regular pages, directory pages, so you can see their contact page, you can see their events, their meet pages. It looks like a whole bunch of people tried to access their membership site that weren't members. We can see their operating systems, right? So this is a lot of minutia, things that can help something, right? So personally, if you know what their operating system is, you can just go, oh, it's so sad. So many people are still using Windows these days. My condolences. Oh, but if we scroll down on here, AWS, we can actually see where people came to the website their locations, like from where do they do it. We can see that there's a lot of Googling going on from around the world. Then we can also see links from different places. So you can see that people came from Facebook. People came from their link tree. Security.net is actually a security feature that they're using, right? So that spiritual breathing, all kinds of information. So there's a wealth of information out there through AWS. So again, we got here from going in the C panel, scrolling down to AW stats and taking a look from there. All web hosts will have some sort of tracking if you've never set anything up with it. Any questions about that? Anybody get glossed over and go, that's a lot.
Yeah, so the big question is, what would I do with any of that information?
Okay, so let me slide this out of the way and give you an example because we're definitely running out of time. I don't want to run over as much as I did last time. So, for example, your top performing content or products, and we saw the pages that were most delivered, the ones that people went to the most. So you could take a look at that and imagine, if we dug down more, we could have looked at pages of blog posts and articles that they had perhaps. Or if your site just talks about services, knowing what services people are searching for. So if you were, let's say you're in the tree service industry, right? And you grind out stumps. You do regular maintenance on branches and shrubs. You do tree removal. You do planting, and you do spring cleanups, right? As an example. Well, if you notice that your number one page is stump removal, and you're really not talking about stump removals on your website, people want that information. So that can tell you, you know what, let's take a look and add more content to that so you can be found more frequently, more often in the search engines. It might mean that if you're talking about your personal art collection of ceramic goods that you decided is your hobby, but you want to put it on your dental website because you want to see more personal and nobody's looking at it, that's a good indication that unfortunately nobody cares, right? So you might want to take that personal ceramic hobby or arts that you're doing and take them off the site. So why it matters, it helps you understand what, like I said, what your audience, what the visitors are looking for. And then from that, if you're selling products, if you have an e-commerce store, right, you can see what products are your best sellers and decide, do I want to sell more of those? Do I want to sell items that work in conjunction or congruent with those, right? That's great when you can then add, ooh, people also bought these items or related items that can help make things easier if you're using this product, right? If you're not selling things, the idea that you can look at your blog posts for the topics that people are interested in and they're not interested in. Okay, so that's another way that all that can help. So as I kind of alluded to as I was talking, based on these top performing pages and products and content and articles, you can create more of that because that's what people are consuming. That's what they want. And maybe trim down, using the tree analogy, pare down, prune the content that's not working, that you don't want, right? Websites are more about quality as opposed to quantity. However, having great quality and a lot of it is going to be really good for you. Okay. Does that answer that particular kind of question there?
Yeah.
I'll go through a couple more. Session duration and pages per session, right? We kind of looked at that. How long do people stay on our site and how many pages do they visit? So we kind of had the conversation with the bounce rate. They come in and they leave, not necessarily a good thing. But if you're looking at it and you see that people are going there's multiple pages that they're visiting. That's a great thing. That means they're staying, they're interested, they're looking around, as opposed to if they were just coming in, going to a couple pages and leaving. You could take a look at that in conjunction with how many page views did it get to decide what you want to do with it. Um, if you're not seeing a lot of pages per session, that may mean that you don't have a lot of links that kind of would make people or let them want to check out the rest of the site. One of the things that's always good to do on every page on your website is have cross links to other pages on your website. So a lot of times, let's say in a blog post, you'll be talking about this, that, the other thing, and you can have a link to a particular phrase or word that's important that goes to another blog post. So if somebody's really interested in, all they have to do is click and boom, now they have new content that they can read on your site, right? We can have a whole conversation about internal linking versus external linking. Both are important. But in this case, we'll stick to make sure that your pages link to other pages on your site, so it gives people the opportunity. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but we are lazy, and I'll include myself with that. We are lazy. We don't want to have to go to the search bar to search for something on that website. But if there's a convenient link, boom, we're quick to link and click on that. We're quick to click on the link. So the more people are engaged, that's a signal to Google that these people like what you have to offer. And if they like what you have to offer, that's going to help your search engine rankings and your SEO, your search engine optimization.
Paul, I'm going to pause for a moment for a commercial break. Since we try to keep the meetings to an hour, but clearly Paul's got a lot, fair amount more to share. So anyone who needs to leave, don't feel badly about it. Just make sure I have your email so I can send you a link to the recording of the session so you can catch the rest of Paul's presentation. And remember that our next meeting would be December 12th, Thursday, December 12th, same time, 8 to 9, and we'll have Andy Gold speaking about ideas to convert customers or grow your business. He's a great sales trainer. And if you're interested in the speaker subgroup where we're going to practice our pitches and give expert feedback on that on the 25th from 8 to 9. So go ahead, Paul.
All right, and I'll finish up quickly just to be cognizant of the time and everybody. We talked a little bit about conversion rates, using compelling CTAs, that's call to actions to get people to do things that you want, is going to be important. Mobile versus desktop traffic, there's a lot of conversation out there that people say you need to be mobile ready, you need to optimize for mobile, everybody's on mobile. While that's true, it's also important to know in your industry, are people really accessing you on mobile? Is your site something that people want to do mobile? It's important to be mobile accessible and responsive. And I've talked about that in the past, but make sure that it's there, but also know that you don't have to go crazy if only 10% of your people, and I've seen this, are on mobile, right? So that means a cell phone or a tablet. Okay. So rounding this all together, how should you do this? What should you do based on what we talked about? I'll just kind of put these up here. Take a look at those numbers and you decide for yourself what's important. What are your KPIs or your key performance indicators, right? I'll throw another buzzword in there for Steve. He put in the chat to me before. What was it? Oh, my actionable insights, right? Get all the corporate buzzwords. But KPIs are key performance indicators. Those are numbers that you think are important. Your KPIs might be different than my KPIs. They might be the same. But knowing what's important and what to focus on is going to allow you to now figure out, how do I track them and what do I do with them? Using the information and the data that you see to help make you make decisions. Again, use your gut instincts, but back it up with the data. See if it's in conjunction with it. And, this is not something that you do once. You saw as we're looking in Google Analytics, we can look at it by day, by week, by month, by quarter, by week to date, year to date, month to date, right? All kinds of crazy periods. Make sure you're comparing the same time periods to different time period, the same time periods. So you're apples to apples, or if you want to see how we compare this year to last year, all that kind of stuff, right?
So Paul, to your suggestion to start small and monitor what you think is important, is
Yep.
there one is there one thing if I was just saying, well, wow, my eyes glazed over, there's so much I could track. Is there one thing you would say is probably the most important to start with?
So if I were to say what's the main thing to look at, again, it's going to be could be different for everybody, but I think the majority is traffic. That's probably the biggest question or metric that we can use to at least identify and start to work on all kinds of different things, right? So people come to us and say, oh my gosh, I need a new website because nobody's buying my stuff. I go, great, let's talk about that. How many people come to your website? I don't know. Well, if we knew that 3 people came to your website last month or 4,000 people came to your website, that will give us a different path to see why things aren't being sold, right? 3 people, you don't have people coming in the store. That's not enough to begin with. 3,000 means people are coming, they're going, oh, I don't like this. Let's leave. Great. Why don't they like it? Let's take a look at things. So knowing your traffic, and I think that's one of the easiest things to take a look at and to work on, right? You can monitor your traffic, you can drive traffic, you can send out emails, you can do things on social media. You could do premium paid ads and then look at those different channels like we talked about to see which one's working the best.
Great.
But yep, that last part is important. We talked about a whole boatload of different things. Don't get overwhelmed. Just pick something that you think is important, and work with that. And then once you're comfortable with it, then start to look at something else. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And then last part 4, I didn't mention part 4. I talked about the 3 movements was question and answers. We kind of got to that. If there are more, I know it's about 6 after, I'll still take questions. Otherwise, thank you very much.
So who has questions for Paul about any of this? Or about the books behind him or his shirt?
I like the bookshelf. How's it?
Isn't
All
that
right.
the same room you had in Somerville, Paul?
Well, I like consistency. It's important to me.
So Sherza, as someone who's very interested in digital marketing, do you have any observations or questions that you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, it's a very well thought out presentation. All the important factors were covered really well. And I really like all the metrics that you have mentioned, like exit pages. They also play a very significant role when it comes to, looking into the statistics that why our customers or visitors are switching from the landing page or why they are bouncing back. So all these information, all these data, basically, when you're trying to take data-driven decisions, these metrics are really important. So overall, yeah, it's a good presentation and all the metrics have covered really well. Yeah, great.
Thank you. You also mentioned to me in the chat privately, I'm going to share it with everybody too, because I think it's a great idea. There are things called heat maps where it's code you put on your website, and it will actually track where people scroll, where they're moving their mouse. So you can see, where people are clicking and the frequency of it. So it's kind of like a thermal imaging of you, if you will, of where people were. So if they like kind of hung their mouse out, it's actually interesting to see as people are moving their mouse as they're reading, you can see that. The more that they hover in one area, or sometimes the service will collectively take multiple visitors for the week and almost overlay them. So you can see red spots that are hot spots, right? Thinking heat map. Think of it like a thermal imaging. The heat maps of these are popular places that people landed their mouse on and kept it there, or how far they went down. So, you're never truly invisible on the web, which is a whole other privacy concern issue that's another topic. But right, we're on this side of, ooh, let's see what everybody is doing, as opposed to the, oh, you're tracking me.
Right. Yeah, and any other questions, thoughts anyone wants to share about anything before we close the session?
I'll just say that Paul is a fountain of information and very willing to share it. So, you know, he'd be a
And
good
you just
person.
want to drain the fountain? Is that what you're saying?
I'm always ready to drain the fountain. No, you really are. You provide a lot of good insight and information when you do a presentation, and I appreciate that. And that's the last nice thing I'm going to say about you today.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, what would be really interesting would be kind of a case study of going through a specific let's show you what you can do with these statistics or whatever, and what impact it has. So
maybe one day we'll take a volunteer, we can track things and then use it as a case study if you want.
oh, that'd be interesting.
And then that way it will definitely be focused to keep me on track to say, here's exactly what we're talking about, and you get what you get and you don't get upset.
I like that.
I'm always happy to answer questions. And as you know, last time there were a variety of level of questions that we had, from way up here to way down here.
Right.
So if I'm just given the podium to speak, look out. But of course, anybody else wants to speak, go ahead and take the spot.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If anyone else has a hot topic that would be interesting to people, and how to build your business, bring in more clients, be more effective and more productive, we're open to those presentations as well. So if no one else has any other questions, I'm going to suggest that this is the end of the meeting, and thanks so much for coming, particularly Shirza and Raul. We welcome you to join anytime you would like. There's no membership fee for this group. We just are here to help each other. So thanks everyone for coming. See you maybe on the 25th if you are interested in that speaker subgroup and practicing your pitch for getting some expert advice on that, and otherwise on the 12th for our next meeting and presentation on bringing in new clients, or whatever exactly the sales topic will be that we'll work out with Andy.
Cool. All right.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sticking around.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye. Thanks,
Well,
Paul.
bye-bye.